Former CIA officer and analyst John Kiriakou comes out publicly and says that the Israelis threatened the United States, stating that they would use nuclear weapons if Donald Trump did not bomb Iran's nuclear sites. Take a listen to this.
The reason, though, I'm told, that Donald Trump decided to bomb Iran was that the Israelis said, for the first time, if you don't bomb Iran to take out these deep bunkers, we're going to use nuclear weapons.
Crazy.
And they had never threatened that before. And so Trump said, bombing Iran might actually save us from the start of World War III if it keeps the Israelis from using nuclear weapons.
So according to your source, the Israelis told the president of the United States that if he did not use the United States military power to bomb the nuclear facilities in Iran, Israel, acting on its own, would use nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Do you see why there's a problem with that statement, John?
Yeah.
Because they've never admitted that they've had them.
That's right.
So you're telling me that they just admitted to the president of the United States that they have nuclear weapons and we still do not have them in the IAEA treaty?
I mean, if Israeli nuclear whistleblowers are to be believed, yeah, they've had them. They started working on them in the 50s. They got them around the late 60s or the early 70s. Look at Mordechai Vanunu.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't charged for treason for nothing.
That's the guy who they hid in Rome with the honeypot?
Yeah.
So, well, a few things. The interviewer, he said, or no, actually the CIA analyst here, he said that's never happened. The United States has never been threatened by Israel of the use of nuclear weapons if the United States didn't oblige. Well, that's not true because we know it happened in 1973. I'm going to play this short clip just one last time where actually Jonathan Pollard said they should do it this time in Gaza. Well, it looks like they took Jonathan Pollard's word, but instead of Gaza, they used it to threaten Trump with Iran. So take a listen to this again.
And what happened? What happened was, with your eye in the sky, and take a good look at the airplane that's on that runway. And the next day, the airlift started. So the guy that I was talking...
Which airlift?
To Israel.
Uh-huh.
The arms airlift.
So in other words, we threatened their...
We threatened to use unconventional weapons. I'll leave it at that.
So Jonathan Pollard, this was from a month ago. So we know it's happened. I would say I strongly feel that it's very obvious that the Israelis threatened Trump with nuclear weapons, stating that they'll go ahead and just nuke Iran if Trump didn't bomb their sites, because they've done it before in 1973 Yom Kippur War. So if they've done it before, they have nuclear weapons, they would do it again, and they wanted Iran out. So now, knowing this information, and you start to question why, because I remember Donald Trump got a ton of backlash, and I mean, I was just like super against it. So many people were super against it. A lot of his own base was very against it in regards to using B-2 bunker buster bombers to bomb Iran's nuclear sites. And a lot of people questioned, what does Israel have on Trump? What is it? Is it the Epstein files? Is it something else? Are they threatening him with death, stating they'll assassinate him? You really don't know with the way that Israelis operate. You really don't know. Nothing is. They say it themselves. Nothing is off the table because of the fact that they have to act as if they are continuously facing an existential crisis. You are allies with a mad dog. You are allies with a rabid dog, is what Israel is. You are allies with a rabid dog. You can't control them. So when I heard that, it all starts to make sense. Okay, that's why. Because Israel is nuclear armed and they would have nuked Iran. And God knows where things would have came from Israel nuking Iran. If Israel had nuked Iran's nuclear sites, which is far enough, it's not the Fordo nuclear site, I don't believe, from what I understand, is that it's not in a heavily populated civilian area. I believe it's in the mountains, Fordo nuclear site. So regardless, though, the nuclear radiation, and I think they actually did an assessment, the nuclear radiation that would have been released by bombing Fordo would have went into Iran's waterways. It would have the wind would have swept it away. It would have reached all the way to other countries in the Middle East, the wind from the radiation. So this is how rabid and psychotic Israel's actions are. There is no sense of going too far. There is no sense of going too far. And if Israel had done it, how do you think Iran would have responded? I mean, of course, ICBMs all the way. They probably would have used ICBMs, or maybe they would have pulled back because they realized they're going against a rabid dog, and if they do any more, Israel would be willing to nuke Tehran. Who knows? But what I feel very strongly about is Iran would be racing to the bomb. If they knew that Israel is willing to nuke them, the only country that they have as a template for how they should behave is North Korea. Because North Korea is a nuclear armed nation, and guess what? The United States doesn't mess with North Korea. This is just objective fact. It becomes very difficult for any country to mess with a nuclear armed country. That is fact. I don't like North Korea. I'm not here just, pro North Korea, but it's just fact. Now, Libya, for example, wasn't nuclear armed when Gaddafi was president. And what did NATO want? NATO wanted Gaddafi to destroy his chemical weapons manufacturers, and they promised they'd reintegrate him into the world economy, and they'd remove the sanctions, yada yada yada. And then he allowed U.S. Troops to come in, I believe, or he allowed troops to come in and completely gut his weapons manufacturing plants, and then he was completely naked. And very soon after, the uprising happened, and the NATO drones struck, and Gaddafi was ousted out of power, and it set a precedent for other surrounding states that were seeing what happened. And the reason I'm mentioning Libya and Gaddafi is because Iran has mentioned Libya and Gaddafi, and North Korea has mentioned Libya and Gaddafi, and they've said, look at Gaddafi. Whenever Iran or North Korea have previously said several times, and it's in the New York Times, Washington Post, they've all reported on it. Whenever they try to justify their nuclear weapons development, they always say, if we don't have nuclear weapons, we're going to end up like Gaddafi. Because they've noticed that when you're nuclear armed, you're untouchable, but when you're not nuclear armed, you're dispensable. So that's where Israel is bringing us. It's bringing us to an arms race in the Middle East. Now, goes on further, because we really have to think, just think out chronologically what would have happened from that point. Israel nukes Iran. Iran does whatever it's going to do. Think about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a huge regional player in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has said multiple times that if Iran gets the bomb, it will get the bomb as well. And now you have a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, all because of Israel. And who knows what sort of international backlash would have happened to Israel. I'm not honestly sure at this point. I think that Israel can do whatever it does. And the only thing we'll hear the world do is use the word we condemn this in the strongest terms. We condemn Israel's actions here. And then they let them do whatever they want, because Israel is sucked like a parasite onto the United States, who just allows it to do whatever it wants. So that's what the CIA officer had to say regarding that. He also said some other pretty cool stuff. Let's see here. Apparently, he said that Israelis recruited thousands of Afghan refugees as informants, guys who had nothing and would do anything for $100. So take a listen to this. This one is pretty interesting here. Let me go ahead and share the tab and play it for you guys.
Work. So what they did is, there are hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees in Iran, right? They'll never get Iranian citizenship. And because they don't have paperwork, they're not entitled to free medical, to food aid, welfare, nothing. And they're desperate. Well, those are the guys that the Israelis recruited. It's like, we want you to stand on this corner, and every time you see this general drive by, make a note of it and then transmit it back to us. Here's $100. They recruited thousands of these guys.
How
crazy. I mean, it makes sense. It's just absolutely crazy. So, John Kiriakou, I think he's such a cool guy. I want to interview him so bad. I'm not going to reach out to him yet because I only have like 20,000 subscribers. I'm going to wait. If I get to 100 or 150, maybe I have a large enough platform to where he'd actually consider it. So I'm going to wait, but he seems like a really cool guy, so I hope so. Anyways, guys, if you found this video interesting, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Helps my channel grow so I can reach out to somebody like John and he'd actually respond to me. Otherwise, guys, I hope you have a great day.